All right, we'll get started now. So, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to students, parents, and counselors joining us today from every corner of the world. My name is Mustafa Ez, and I'm Huron's Associate Vice President, Recruitment and International Relations. And it's such a huge pleasure to meet many of you here in this session today. Some of you who I've had the chance to see in your home countries over the past few months, and some of you who I'm seeing for the very first time. Today's session is going to be all about the different scholarships and financial aid opportunities that Huron offers international students specifically who are looking to join this September 2023. We're going to cover the different kinds of opportunities available, how to know which one is the right one for you, and other important factors that you should be aware of as you're planning your finances for university and how you can work with your parents, your guardians, your sponsors to plan your studies and your finances in the most proactive way possible. I'm a former Huron student myself. I graduated from Huron in 2016. So I've been through this experience. I've worked different campus jobs. I've kind of felt the process of being a student here and how you can actually manage your finances. So my commitment to you all today is that I want to make sure that this session is very helpful, informative, and you are absolutely welcome to ask me as many questions as you want in the time we have. You may ask questions using the chat feature, and at the end of the session, I'll go through the questions and answer them. And beyond today as well, you'll always be able to connect with myself and my team one-on-one for a deeper dive into your scholarship potential. So without further ado, let's get started. Now, one of the first things I wanted to cover is the different kinds of funding sources that you should look at for your university studies and consider. So obviously the very first one and the primary one will be any contributions from your family, your guardians, your sponsors who are supporting your education. And of course, many students do take up education loans from their home country sometimes to help fund their studies abroad. So that would be something which is very important to cover as that is the main source of funding for your international education experience. Now, the second one that's very common is scholarships and financial aid, which, as you'll hear from today's session, can greatly offset that requirement from family loans and so on. And the other one I want to touch on today later on is work and internship income. While this cannot cover your tuition per se, it can really help with your living expenses. And I'll show you samples of what that looks like as well. So moving on to our next slide, I wanted to cover some of the general expenses to be aware of as you are planning your studies. So this is information available on our website. You'll have the link to all this information and the fees there. So I won't dwell too long into it, but you can see here the different fees for different programs. I just want to also answer a common question on what ancillary fees mean. Ancillary fees are separate from tuition. They cover things like health insurance and other important campus services. And included in those fees, of course, is your free transportation throughout the city of London, Ontario, your gym membership in the $35 million Western Athletic Center on campus, and access to all other campus amenities too. Living on campus, we'll talk about that later on as well. This is the estimate for first year on campus living, but I'll also show you some expenses and costs if you're living on campus in first year or off campus in your further years. There are really important dates and deadlines to be aware of when you are considering scholarships. And the most important date right now is February 1. And I've put that in bold and red underlined there for a reason. February 1 is your date and your deadline to maximize your scholarship potential. After February 1, 2023, there aren't any scholarships available due to the demand of applications at Huron. So every single year, Huron does have far more demand than seats available, and we've developed this round system to ensure that students who want to take advantage of scholarship opportunities, financial aid opportunities, can do so early. And also you have the comfort of hearing back quite early with regards to decisions so that you can make your own decisions as well. And that's why we have this round system. So bear in mind that all scholarships I cover today are due by February 1st. My biggest advice to you all is never wait close to that deadline to begin the process. You should submit your applications to Huron programs from now if you haven't already, so that you can access the scholarship portal, which happens after you apply to your Huron program, to begin to see what the questions are, how to go out the process, and ensure you have all your documents submitted by February 1st. So that's the second round deadline. And the third round deadline, April 1st, after that, like I said, has no scholarships, but we will still consider students for admission if there are any spots remaining in the program. Now, let's talk about the very first level of scholarship, as I like to call it, the International Entrance Scholarship. So as you can see, depending on which round you apply, this varies between 1,000 to 15,000 per year or 1,000 to 10,000 per year. First, you submit your application to a Huron program. And in that application process, all students are asked to submit a personal statement if they wish to be considered for this program. The personal statement basically covers anything that you'd like us to know that doesn't exist on your transcript. For example, it could be extracurricular contributions you've made outside of class. It could be why you want to study the course that you're taking. It could be why Huron is a great fit to help you achieve your goals. It's really a chance for you just to share anything beyond your transcript. After that, you submit your documents. And then once we receive your complete application, your personal statement, your past transcripts, your mid-year predicted or current marks from your senior year, we will look at your application and issue you an entrance scholarship between 1,000 to 15,000 or 1,000 to 10,000 per year of study at Huron, based on those grades. That's what I would call level 1 of scholarship, okay? And you can see here, using the sample budget I pulled earlier, how much that can impact the tuition fees. So in the first scenario, you have someone who received a 5,000 per year entrance scholarship. In the second, 10,000. And in the third, someone who receives a 15,000 per year international entrance scholarship. Do bear in mind that all figures here are in Canadian dollars, not US dollars. That's one of the great things about studying in Canada. We have a friendlier dollar for everyone. So bear that in mind with all of the information listed on the presentation slides today. So that's the entrance scholarship. And that's something which everyone will be considered for as long as you submit the personal statement and the transcripts. Now let's talk about what's called the supplemental scholarships that are due by February 1, the higher level scholarships. The most famous scholarship at Huron, and one that is one of the most prestigious scholarship opportunities in all of Canada for international students, is the International Presidential Scholarship. Huron is a university that is very different in the sense that we're not just interested in students who only have good grades. We want to see students who demonstrate exceptional values and ethics that align with our vision of what we call leadership with heart. And this means students who have made a very positive impact in their school, their society, their community, or their country, or the world, and wish to continue to do so for the rest of their lives and are committed to that kind of ethos. So the International Presidential Scholarship does a tremendous job of identifying those students and rewarding them with one of the most powerful scholarships in all of Canada for international students. So this scholarship is worth up to 50% of tuition. So depending on the program over 4 years, that can be close to $120,000 in total value, which is huge. And we give 10 of these per year to international students specifically from around the world. We've had students win this from every corner of the globe. There isn't a national or regional quota or anything like that. And many students who win the scholarship actually make the national newspaper in their home country, like we've seen last year. So it would be a pretty cool achievement as well. Now, this scholarship, I'll go over the criteria in a minute, but I want to explain the application process. The first way to access the scholarship is by first applying to any Huron program, any of our business, social science, arts programs, any of the programs you see on the Huron website. You first submit your application there. After you submit an application to Huron, and you've submitted that application, whether it's through the Ontario University Application Center or directly on our website, and you'll see all the instructions there, you log into your Huron portal, and you'll see a section called the Scholarship Application section appear on your Huron portal. That is where you see all the scholarships available. That is where you see the criteria for each scholarship. And you even complete the information required for the scholarship on the portal itself. So you complete the presidential scholarship application form on there before February 1. And this scholarship also requires a letter of recommendation from your school counselor. So what you're going to do is you need to really speak early on. If you haven't already, speak from now with your counselor. And your counselor or teacher at the school, whoever's going to help you, is always welcome to even speak with us to get some advice and insights on how to go about this. But you need to get their permission to nominate you for the scholarship and write the letter of recommendation. In the application form, you will be able to put the email address of the counselor who's writing your reference letter or letter of recommendation. So you put their email address, and then we will send them the information required on how to submit. Bear in mind that we need all the documents, both your supplemental application for the International Presidential Scholarship, as well as your letter of recommendation before February 1. Tip and advice for you all, make a mental deadline at least 2 weeks, maximum 1 week before this date to ensure things are smooth. So you can also check with us if everything has been received. After we receive all these applications, we do a short list. So we find the certain amount of students who we wish to invite for a video interview. It's an asynchronous video interview, which means it's not live. We give you, using a software we have, questions that are asked on the spot by video recording. And that means you can do the video interview in a comfortable time for your time zone, for wherever you are, whenever you feel most comfortable prepared to do this video interview. And you have a certain deadline to do it until as well. And then we'll watch all the recordings as well of the video interviews. And from those interviews, we will select 10 students from around the world to receive the International Presidential Scholarship. And you'll be told by March 2023. Now, the impact of the scholarship is huge. So I put together in front of you the sample budget to show you that if you receive this presidential scholarship, which covers 50% of tuition, here is what your annual tuition fees look like. It is reduced to 23,000 to 29,000 Canadian dollars per year if you are a recipient of the International Presidential Scholarship. So this is, again, a merit-based scholarship, which means that the merit is the main criteria for the scholarship. It's not reflective of financial need. That I'll talk about later in our next scholarship. But the International Presidential Scholarship is for students who have this criteria and don't necessarily have financial need as much. So there are three main components that we use to evaluate the scholarship. The first is your academic results. We typically look for students who have a mid-year or predicted grade 12 or senior year score of around 90% or higher. In the IB curriculum, if you're doing the IB diploma, that would typically be in the high 30s of IB. If you're doing the British curriculum, that would typically be A stars and A's in your predicted A levels or AS levels. And if you're doing national or CBSE or other curricula, it would be 90% or above. The second component is that supplemental application I talked about due by Feb 1. This is really important because we're going to ask you some questions that you respond to, some short essay questions. We're going to give you the chance to share up to 5 of what you feel are your most notable extracurricular achievements from the past 4 years. And you can tell us all about those and brag about yourself as much as you wish. And we've put together the essay questions because we also recognize that COVID has meant that maybe you weren't able to be involved as much as you would have liked to, or maybe there were restrictions in your home country or school that prevented you from getting involved. So our questions are also meant to get a sense of your future ambition as well and your fit for the university. So those are the 3 criteria. Now, a couple of tips and advice I really want to share with you all so that you can write a very strong application and be able to present a competitive scholarship for the presidential scholarship. Number 1, the biggest thing that I always ask students to say or to do or keep in mind, is to never just send us a zip file of 20 certificates. Don't just send us certificates or titles. Obviously, it's a reflection of your great achievements, but we want to hear your story beyond the certificate. What did you learn? What impact did you make in that extracurricular activity? How did you grow as a student as a result beyond just saying, here's what I did, right? So that's my biggest lesson to you. So in that space where you can put up to 5 of your own extracurricular achievements, make sure you use it wisely to showcase that kind of impact that you've made. So for us, impact is very important. And I want to give a common example I give to help you visualize what that looks like. Let's say you have 2 students. Each of them were captain of the basketball team, okay? One says, I'm captain of the basketball team, and they send me a certificate of a competition they won, okay? And the other student says, I was captain of the basketball team. However, what I did as captain is, took care of my team members. Here's how I ensured team morale was high. Here's how I dealt with a difficult situation with one of my team members or with my coach. Or maybe I used my passion for basketball to host a, basketball tournament at school, a fundraiser, and we used the funds to donate it to a local charity. That shows a leader who used their position of authority, their leadership position in the school, to actually make an impact. And let me be clear, being a leader does not necessarily mean having a title. If you hold no title in any school club or school organization, but you've done something on your own, like a really great community initiative or a social impact, that's great as well. So we don't have a ranking of what's better than others. It's not that athletics is better than music, better than MUN, better than volunteering, better than being a prefect. It's less about the title and the position and more so about the impact. You see what I mean? So keep that in mind as you're completing your application. Generally speaking, we like breadth and depth, and that means being involved in a range of different things and having a passion for the things you're involved in. It is easy for a scholarship committee to tell if someone joined the club 3 months before graduation just to look good on the university application, right? Versus someone who's doing something that they describe as really their passion. You can see that's been meant a lot to them or it's related to their future goals. So the greater variety you have of achievements is good, but not to the point where you're doing everything on a surface level, right? So a good range of quality impacts and achievements is a really competitive thing for this scholarship application. Be authentic and be yourself. Read carefully into the questions we're asking. Read carefully into Huron. Understand our unique vision. Understand our unique environment, what we're trying to do here, and show us how this institution is the right fit for you. The biggest reason that we do scholarships is to really help students achieve their dreams and their goals. That's the top reason. And so when we're looking as to who to give scholarships to, we want to ensure it is going to students who it might make the most impact. The more you can show us that this institution, this university, and our unique structure, the scholarship will help you achieve your passion, your goal, that's when we're most inclined to help. So be authentic in that sense and relate your passions and achievements to the scholarship criteria. Your growth and your goals, don't be shy to reflect on a difficult moment in your life. Maybe in grade 9 and grade 10, you weren't the best student or you struggled with certain things. But as long as you improved in, let's say, grade 11 and grade 12, we respect the fact that you have self-awareness to recognize maybe past shortcomings and that you've clearly worked to overcome them and grow as a student leader. That in itself is also a notable trait. So don't feel shy to talk about any kind of difficult periods in your life or maybe any things that you feel are a personal shortcoming and how you've developed from them. So I hope this gives you a helpful insight into the presidential scholarship, okay? Now, the next scholarship I want to talk about is financial aid. This is a need-based approach, and this is the first program of its kind in all of Canada for international students, and we are exceptionally proud of that. One of the things to understand about Huron is that we really attract some of the brightest young thinkers from around the world. People who have a very high ambition for themselves and for society, and they want to live a life where they'll feel they'll make an immense impact in the world one day. And we want to minimize financial barriers as much as possible. To us, the two most important criteria to join students at Huron is your head and your heart. And we don't want finances to be a barrier as much as possible. That's why this year we've introduced Canada's most progressive system of financial aid for purely international students. And this one is going to be quite transformative in supporting students who meet our criteria, but may not have the means to afford the education. So here's how to understand this program, okay? Very simply put, this program is meant to complement your entrance scholarship if the entrance scholarship does not meet your budget needs. So for example, let's say you applied to Huron, you made the cut, you were admitted, congratulations, and you received a $7,000 per year or a $12,000 per year international entrance scholarship. Now, let's say you look at that entrance scholarship, you look at the fees, and you say, unfortunately, it's still out of my budget, but I got accepted. How do I still get a chance to come? This is where financial aid comes in. Financial aid allows you, regardless of what scholarship you received, or if you received even no scholarship, to be considered for further financial support based purely on what your financial need is. And the amount awarded can be between 5% to 50% of tuition. So hypothetically, a student who received $7,000 per year entrance scholarship, but needs even up to $23,000 or $29,000 per year in order to afford attendance, can receive that amount if you demonstrate it. Here's how to apply for the scholarship. Similar to the presidential scholarship, the first step is applying to Huron. So if you haven't already, you should do that from now so that you can access the scholarship application afterwards and be able to see what the requirements all would be. After that, you log into your scholarship portal, click on the Huron International Financial Aid Form, which I'll refer to as HIFAF for simplicity going forward, and see the requirements there. We have a form that asks you many questions about your financial needs. You and your family will need to closely work together to complete this form, and you can also openly share with us what your financial needs are so we understand any important financial circumstances. The second thing you need to do is to upload this along with a list of documents you require, which you will see on our website. This will include things like bank statements. If your country has an income tax, it would include the income tax return and other documents as well that demonstrate your financial need. Once we get all this before February 1, 2023, again, that's the golden date for everything here today, we will take a look at your financial need, what you've presented to us, and based on both what we observe in your application and what our capacity is, we will do our best to award you between 5% to 50% of the tuition fees in needs-based financial aid. You will also hear back on this after March 2023. So let's take a look at what this can do to your cost of attendance, okay? So I put together on the following table in front of you a sample. I've put a student receiving 20%, a student receiving 30%, and a student receiving 50%, right? Because each decision is individual, case by case. So you could receive any of these amounts at any time. And you can see that, again, right, the fees change dramatically per year depending on the financial need awarded. So this program is a great opportunity for those of you who've earned a spot in Huron and worked very hard to earn it, to be able to have a much more affordable education compared to the regular cost of attendance or even attendance with a entrance scholarship, okay? So I hope this is very helpful and this was kind of like clear in explaining it. A very common question I get is, can I apply for both International Presidential Scholarship and Huron International Financial Aid? The short answer is technically yes, you can apply for both. There's no one stopping you, but you need to ask yourself which one is the right one for me. Does my family actually need need-based financial aid, and can I actually demonstrate that? Or am I really hoping to get a scholarship based on my merits alone? If you feel, based on the information provided today, that needs-based aid might not be right for you, it might be best to stick to the International Presidential Scholarship. However, if you feel as if needs-based is still somewhat important to you or very important to you, you can apply for both. Because if you're not selected for the International Presidential Scholarship, you will be considered for the financial aid as well. But definitely in this case, apply to both, not just one or the other. Don't rely on just one scholarship. Here's a big difference to understand. If you receive the International Presidential Scholarship, you will definitely receive 50% of your tuition covered. However, if you apply for financial aid, you can receive between 5% to 50%. The amount is not guaranteed in advance because it depends on your assessment. So I hope this gives you some helpful insights into the right way to apply or which scholarship is right for me. I'm going to share a link in the chat right now, which I think you should be bookmarking and checking out after the session. We have a full range of all these scholarships, sample budgets, and in the frequently asked questions section, at the bottom of the page, I do have a great explanation for you on which scholarship is the right one for you. So do browse that page after this and feel free to get in touch with our team for any further questions. Now, the questions I'm getting in the chat are around expenses with regards to residence and living on campus and living in Canada. So, to be clear, the tuition, the scholarships and financial aid, they cover your tuition and ancillary fees. They don't deal with the residence and living piece. That's separate. So here I put some samples of living on campus. You can see here that living on campus, which includes your residence room, Wi-Fi, insurance, all campus services, are all you care to eat meal plans. So every single meal for the entire school year from September to April, you can have as much or as little as you like for every single meal. It's an all you care to eat meal plan. You never have to worry about refilling your funds. That's approximately $16,000 for the year, Canadian, and I've put together $1,500 as a contingency for books and supplies. Living off campus in your second, third, and fourth year. So typically in Canada, you live on campus in your first year, you get the comfort of living next to your classes, with your peers, with your staff support, and then you'll move off campus. Maybe you'll make 2 or 3 friends in first year who want to live with you, and you'll together rent an apartment or a villa near the campus, and you live off campus for year 2, year 3, year 4. This is a very big point to understand when studying in Canada. The cost of living on campus can change dramatically depending on the city you're in. Remember, we're the second largest country in the world. There's so many options of places to live, okay? For example, my brother lives in Toronto, works there right now, okay? The apartment that he gets with his roommate, which costs them $2,500 per month, that same apartment in London could be for 1,400 per month. Even though we're not that far from Toronto, and London's location in southern Ontario, Canada's most economically developed region, the most connected region, is super advantageous. So the cost of living makes a huge difference. Even if you saved $500 to $1,000 per month in living over several years, that adds up to a huge lump sum at the end of the 4 years, right? So look at where you're going in terms of cost of living, not just the university fees as well, is my other advice for you all. Here you can see that in London, Ontario, which is a very student-focused city, the cost of living for the year can be anywhere from $9,600 to $17,600, depending on your budget, your preference of property, and so on. So again, far more affordable than some of the major metros in Canada, and still very close to where all the action is and where you'd want to be from a personal level and a career level too. The last thing I want to touch on as we begin to wrap up this session is the potential for income. Now, again, to be clear, tuition fees should not be relied on to be paid by your work income. That needs to come from one of the sources I described earlier: guardian, parent sponsorship, education loans, and of course, our very extensive scholarships and financial aid. However, one thing to keep in mind is that this can make a really big difference in your living expenses. Okay. When I was a Huron student, I had multiple on-campus jobs and I had 3 major paid internships in 3 different countries: Canada, China, and Japan. And the savings I was able to earn from my income really helped me buy things that I care about, take care of some personal expenses away from my parents. So it makes a big difference. What I've put together here is very conservative amounts. I didn't want to put the top end or things that we see more in common. I want to show you in even the most conservative scenario what you're looking at, okay? So you can see here in Canada, Ontario specifically, we have one of the highest minimum wages in the entire world. And the minimum wage in Canada and Ontario right now is $15.50 per hour. And that is going to allow you to work part-time on campus. Even an entry-level job on campus, your very first job, would pay you that much. And if you work this job for 20 hours per week during the school year, you're earning about $9,920 in the first year alone towards your personal expenses. Now, as you may know, and you'll hear in today's session on career development, which you must attend, by the way, the career development session cannot be missed. It's going to tell you a lot about how to do this in real life and next steps into how to actually gain high-end internships. These can depend a lot on the sector that you're in. So the sector you're in really shapes the income. So for example, I put a range here of a 4-month summer paid internship. If you work in nonprofit, there's obviously very different income than working in investment banking and so on. So there's a whole range. It's hard to predict with accuracy for everyone, but I put together even a modest sample of what you're looking at. So really, you could earn anywhere between 18,000 to 30,000. I've seen people earn much more than that as well over the year by working part-time in the school year and doing a full-time summer internship with, in Canada, international students are fully able to do. We're blessed in this country to have a system that allows you to actually gain the same exposure to industry and work as Canadians do. You can work in the school year without restrictions, thanks to a new change in policy as well. And now you can also work in the summer full-time, 35, 40 hours a week, and take advantage of all the internships offered, and also Huron's very famous guaranteed paid internships program. So I've put my contact information above on the screen right now. You're welcome to take a photo or screenshot it and get in touch with us at any time. I've also put a Linktree link in the chat below that lets you connect with any of our admissions team's members beyond this call today. You can book a Zoom call with us one-on-one to get a personal consultation on which scholarship or financial aid is the right one for you. You can chat to us about any financial questions you have, and our team will be most happy to sit with you and sit alongside you and your family. If you want to bring your parents, they can come too, and answer your questions around finances, help you plan a budget. And based on what you tell us, we can also recommend which sources of scholarship or financial aid may be the right one for you. So once again, thank you for attending this session. We have more sessions coming today. The next session is going to be inside the Huron Student Experience, which begins now. So I encourage you all to make your way to that session and speak to our international students and ask them any questions you have. We have a panel of international students from around the world and different programs, and you can ask them direct questions about the student experience, or even things like how to budget for your studies or work opportunities on campus. So do head over to that session right now. I know you all have the link to our sessions page. I will share it in the chat once again. And our team is very committed to helping you one-on-one in the future after today with all of your scholarship questions and any more tips and advice we can provide. So it was a pleasure to see you all today. I look forward to personally reading all of your scholarship applications, and I wish you the best of luck with this semester. Enjoy the rest of the Huron Virtual Expo, and we'll see you soon.